All right.
All right, Robinson Show. We're back with Christoper Minori. Christopher,
Hey, how you guys doing?
good. How you doing, brother?
Good, thanks.
You wrote, and you're creator and co-author of a Texas Chainsaw Musical, correct?
That's right.
That's awesome.
That's the best damn musical since Macbeth.
I was going to ask, have you ever heard, when I first came across your project, it reminded me of Silence the Musical. I didn't know if you ever heard that. It's a couple, two brothers that made a Silence of the Lambs musical. It's amazing.
Yeah, I have heard. I've heard a couple of the songs, and they're pretty raw. They're pretty good.
Yeah. What made you want to do a Texas Chainsaw musical?
So, this thing is really, really old when I first started thinking about it. Before there were any, before people were turning all these movies into plays, I originally thought about it back in high school, and it was a joke. It was just a title that I put, in the playbill as something I was doing. And people would say, hey, when are you doing that play? When are you doing it? The more I thought about it, and I was doing more writing, and so yeah, I just decided to do it, and it turned out pretty good.
I love that. I was going to ask if it was something you worked like since college or like is it high school. I didn't know. Like I figured it takes like a long time to make a musical.
Musical's rough. I also write. I've got some books out too, and musicals are tough. And me and my partner, the guy who did the music, Corey Bidoff, we had no idea of any of this. And we live on different sides of the country. I live over on the East Coast, and he's over on the West Coast.
Wow.
We actually only hooked up, I want to say, like maybe 3 or 4 times while we wrote the whole thing.
How did you find each other?
So we were best friends in high school, and we were in that same play where I joked about this thing, and we lost track of each other. He moved to San Francisco, and I moved up north to New York at the time, and then I just I found his number on I don't even remember where, but I called him, and he had started playing music, and we just completely learned together. In fact, Corey is really funny. Corey doesn't even read music, right? He did this whole thing just on guitar because that's what he knew at the time.
Wow.
So yeah, we really kind of not just learned how to do a musical, but I was really learning how to write at that time and finding kind of my style, and he was learning how to do music, and we were just super lucky that our styles meshed because it's not easy to work with me.
Me neither, bro. Me neither.
So I'm curious. I should just lost what I was going to say. Never mind.
I was going to ask. So, did you like you said he did the music on a guitar? Did you then go after like an orchestra to do the music, or did he just do it?
Yeah. We wound up having to hire someone to transcribe the music for us.
Wow.
He had all these demo tapes, and he had friends who had recording studios and helped him kind of fill out the music and everything. Because like I said, he wrote it on guitar. It might have even been acoustic, I almost want to say. And yeah, once we really felt like we had kind of where it needed to be, then we wound up having to hire somebody to turn it into sheet music for us.
I remember what I was going to ask now. So was the musical the first thing you had ever actually written? Because you said you had just started getting into writing.
Yeah, I was writing short stories is where I really started. And I was really lucky. Like when I was, I think I wrote my first story when I was about 13. And it was kind of like, when I say first, like my first kind of adult story, right? That wasn't just me, shitting all over the paper. And we wound up, I sent it out to some fanzines, and I found one that published it. I had another short story I had written, and I got that one done. And then really that was it as far as like trying to publish. At that point, I just started trying to write and learn to write and kind of, playing with words and learning the rules so that I could break them and all of that, really. And then, like I say, on the play, man, God, it was so crazy, what we were trying to do there, that I really, that's where I picked up my style. I remember the exact scene I was working on when I went, oh, this is it. And suddenly I knew how to write.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Are you constantly adding like new songs to the musical, or is it pretty much done?
So we're done. It plays all around the country.
Wow.
In fact, it's going to be in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, in October, at the Barnstormers Theater, which is very cool. It's a very, very old theater. No, we closed it out last year. Corey did, and I should send to you before we do some Christmas shows, but Corey wrote kind of a Christmas song that kind of tied in with the chainsaw. It was like a chainsaw Christmas song or something like that. It's really funny.
Nice.
But no, other than that, Corey and I hang out. We talk all the time. But really, I've just been working a lot on. I did an anthology a couple of years ago, which had some of those stories I talked about, modernized and quite a few others. And then I just put out another book, Little Idiots, which is kind of like, I don't know, if you took Harry Potter, written by Douglas Adams, on a lot of acid.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
I was going to ask, that's what I was going to ask, what Little Idiots was, because I saw that.
Yeah, it's about this demon. It's a detective story, but with demons who are basically the good guys and the angels who are basically the bad guys, and so this demon Sam gets kind of framed for stealing souls that were meant for heaven, and so he gets banished to Earth. And he basically has to kind of, figure out who framed him and take him down, get him over to Satan. It's really funny. It's done pretty well.
I love that.
So yeah, definitely. It's available on Amazon for anybody who's interested.
I love that. Clear my name, Satan. Prove that.
Well, it's funny. Everybody's so Satan. Hell is kind of like this business, right? For his business, and I never actually refer to Satan as Satan. He's always known as the CEO, And so it's. I actually was thinking when I wrote him, I was thinking kind of Peter Capaldi. I'm a huge Capaldi fan, Doctor Who, especially Malcolm Tucker. So I try to kind of give them all these just standard personalities. Nobody is really scary kind of monster demon. Everybody's kind of just as big a jerks as we are here.
Just
right?
doing a job, yeah.
I love that kind of writing.
I love that.
That's the genres.
That made me think too. I'm a big fan, and I didn't expect to be. I expected to hate it, but Your Pretty Face is going to hell. I thought it looks like a crappy put together show, but it is really well written and really funny. And that's kind of what it is. It's like Satan running a business.
So, it's so funny you mention that because I bring it up to people all the time, and nobody, a lot of people watch, but my crowd don't really watch that. So my daughter, she sometimes apprentices, that's filmed here in Georgia. And my daughter sometimes apprentices with a makeup artist here, Shane Morton. So she actually helped do some of the makeup on that.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, and so I got to go down because I'm a huge fan of Dana. I'm a huge fan now. I can't think of his name.
Satan,
Dana,
right?
I don't know. So
Dana Gould
happened to be. What's that?
Is it Dana Gould? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. So and he was in it, so I ran down to Dana Snyder. That's who it is.
That's right. Okay,
the voice of Master Shake.
Yes, that's what
So I wanted to go down and meet him. So I got to go down in a second. She was working one day, and my wife went with me, and she was on her way to the bathroom, and the guy who plays Satan was coming back from there, and he was in full makeup, and they talked for a minute, and he realized Bella had done, my daughter Bella had done his makeup, and he realized that Brandy was her mom, and he was just raving about her, and Brandy came back and she's like, Bella, Satan just loves your work.
I put that on a resume now.
Satan loves my work.
Right? Exactly.
I love that. Oh my God, dude, that's an amazing story.
You said you put together an anthology collection of your old short stories, so that means you held on to your short stories from when you were a kid?
I did. So it's what it was, I had done the play, and it had been so long since I had completed it. And like I said, it plays around the country. And I would go to these question and answer periods at the shows, and people would be, what are you doing now? And it's always, I'm writing a book. And it's like, I'm not really doing anything, right? I mean, I got to put something out at some point. So I wanted
You promised a book.
Exactly. So I wanted to write a book, but I wanted to get something out kind of like, I had to get it out. Just have something out there, right, to get me kind of kick-started. And So I had all these short stories, so I took that and I redid them all, and that got me about halfway through the book, and then everything else is new.
Oh, okay.
So some of it is older stuff, and then some of it is new, and it's very eclectic. It's not the kind of anthology. Usually they're a collection of similar stories, and while it's got kind of my always weirdness going through it, some of them are just straight out fantasy comedy. Some of them are straight out horror, and then some is just really, really dark horror. So for some of my friends who don't like horror, I have to go through and kind of mark which chapters they can read, right?
Just put an X on the edge.
Not for you.
Exactly. And
so you really genre bend.
Genre bender.
Genre bend inside that.
I do. I think that's fun, right? So even like with like I said, with little idiots, it's comedy, it's fantasy, it's got elements of horror. It's very violent at times, but then a lot of times I think the violence goes into kind of a Monty Python thing where it's just so much, right? Like Mr. Creosote just vomiting out gallons and gallons, right?
Over the top.
And then it's also a detective novel.
Yes.
And really, I tried to do very, very, like a true hard-boiled type detective story, so it follows a lot of those conventions. Even the play is a silly comedy, but we were very careful to make sure it is it's in the same style as any Broadway show you would see, right? We kept all the conventions. We made sure the music was the same type of ideas and things. And so that to me is really fun, just grabbing all these different areas and kind of bending them and mixing them,
Nice. Christoper, do you travel with the show?
I do. So I don't travel with the show. I don't produce it, right? Me and Corey do not produce it. We just collect the checks, right?
Oh, nice.
We did the very first show we did at the San Francisco Fringe Festival, and we actually we self-produced that one.
Okay.
And it was its opening. It was a 3-day show, just 3 shows, and by the second show, we had picked up a producer who produced it locally there.
Wow!
And then we've had 1 to 2 shows every year. And it's producers approach us and they want to put it on. And the thing is, what winds up happening is it's such a word of mouth type show. And the show, typically you'll find at every single theater, it's the first night is kind of about half full or so, because nobody, a lot of people haven't heard of it. And then after that, every show is packed after that.
That's amazing.
It's just such a bizarre,
wow,
kind of silly stuff.
I was going to ask too, is it always the same like actors, or did they just find their own everywhere it's performed?
No. It's imagine like, you're a theater, right? And you typically you have a run of shows you do each season, right? That's what it is. So they're all different theaters. They're different actors. It's so in different states across the country. It really is. It's like we've written it. We've kind of said, okay, put it out there, and whoever wants to put it on can put it on, and we really work with them to kind of let them make it their own show, which is really important.
That is awesome. Like, you're never going to see the same performance.
No. And people have added stuff on. I mean, people have added some insane stuff in here, they had one where there's this one scene where this couple, you hear in the dark, and they're talking about how beautiful it's set for lovemaking, and then the lights come up, and it's just bodies and body parts all over the stage. And this one theater thought it would be really funny to have one of the corpses shoot flowers like out of its butt, right? They set up this special effect to just shoot them out of there. I saw that. It worked. I mean, out of context, it might sound a little off. But
it does sound silly, but I love it. I love it either way. If it works or doesn't, I love that.
Right, exactly. Oh, who'd you get those? Read the card. How'd those get up there? Yeah, we've had another theater where there's a scene where the serial killer and this other guy are kind of dancing. They're doing this duet, but they're supposed to be in different places. And they had it's kind of a singing in the rain number. And this theater actually had it raining on stage. And one half they had, with the hero, they had just rain. And on the side where the killer was, it was raining blood. Right. So, I mean, people have really gone out. They do like blood seats, right? Splatter sections where they'll charge a little bit extra and people will come in and they'll shoot out blood all over it. Because originally I thought, wouldn't it be fun if it was like a 3D movie, right? So I had a lot of stuff coming out into the audience. and people have run with that. One theater, they were shooting out, they set up blood cannons and were shooting out 40 gallons of blood a show.
I hope it was real blood. That's all I hope. Wow, that's awesome though. What is your favorite song in the musical, Christoper?
I think it's the Gospel According to Stephen is kind of a it's kind of like a Greek chorus type thing, along with done by Cab Calloway, right? And
yes.
It's really wild. It's got kind of all different beats and tunes to it. It's got a nun is the lead singer, right? And she kind of goes into this great sexy little number out of that. And it's just very funny and really great. But I mean, honestly, the music is really good. It hits. There are songs that are kind of a country style. There are songs that are more, quite a few that are more rock. Some that are just more kind of dramatic ballads. We steal a little bit from Queen.
Nice.
And and then at the end, the one thing we made sure to do was like this big style Broadway, finale scene. So yeah, the stuff is great. I sent you guys a copy of the soundtrack, so
I was just gonna say, I noticed I have the Christmas song in there. That is amazing. That's amazing.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we added that on there. Yeah.
Is the soundtrack available to buy online?
It is. You can get that also on either at CD Baby or you can get it on Amazon.
Awesome. Shit, I had a question. Like Slim, I lost it. That's what I was going to ask. Is there any other movies or anything that you are going to turn into a musical, or you would like to?
So I feel like I've got this one more musical in me. And I want to get away from horror. And so what I'm really thinking of is, and I've just like barely started kind of putting it together and kind of sketching it out in my head. So I want to do a musical this time on disaster films. And I wanted to do kind of I think of like a Poseidon adventure. You remember the old Beach Party movies with like Annette and Frankie Avalon and all that?
Yes.
Yeah, Beach Blanket Poseidon is kind of the working title.
I like that.
And
I was going to say, you could work like Twister
I think
in
that would be hilarious, right?
Yeah.
Twister. What was that other one? Day After Tomorrow?
Day After Tomorrow, I think? Yeah, there's some great disaster movies.
Right, exactly.
I love it.
Earlier you had said that like writing a musical is very difficult. So in your opinion, what is the most difficult thing about writing a musical that would differ from writing like a normal screenplay?
So, either a screenplay or novel or really anything like that, you kind of you're reading it in your head and it reads pretty much the same way you're looking at it on paper. Like it reads very close to how you intend it to be, right? The way I write it is the way pretty much everybody's going to read it. They might interpret it differently, but basically they're reading it the way I intended. A musical any kind of stage play really doesn't work that way, because what I write and the cadence I do and the timing in my head that I put down doesn't necessarily translate to stage. And you really have to see it performed and watch the audience, and you've got to do that a bunch of times and then go back and modify your script to that, right? I mean, I cut so much out because it was hilarious on paper, But it didn't work on stage. The audience would laugh and they would lose stuff, or, occasionally apparently actors have to breathe, or it's just, it doesn't sound like, to me, I would recommend, if anybody wanted to write, wanted to seriously write a stage play that you want to see produced or something, get hooked up, get something written to start with, one or two drafts, and then get hooked up, try to partner up with some theater that has actors and all that, and see if they'll do some staged readings or kind of work, allow you to do almost like a workshop the play, right? You have to, otherwise it's just not gonna work for you. It's, I think we spent, like 10 years on this thing, right? Wow. And of course we had it difficult because of the distance, but it's a lot of work. It's not, I wrote my last novel in a year and a half, this took us 10 years because you have to change it and modify it and go back and change it again. And
during all that time, is it like
tough.
You're laying a lot of money out at the point to just get the project done, or no?
Well, yeah, no, yeah, we've definitely have we've had a lot of shows out where we have not anywhere close to making back what we've had to put in when it comes to we had to of course a stage reading. It's expensive to stage a production, even as bare bones as ours was, and then of course the soundtrack. That we produced, because again, our problem is we're perfectionists, right? We didn't want to just do a in somebody's basement to a soundtrack. We wanted a studio soundtrack with professional singers who were also actors, and so all that kind of stuff kind of costs, but it's not. I think for us, it's really not the money. It'd be great to get the money back, but we get kind of paid back, right? So one of our shows, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, called a top 10 show of that year, right? That alone just, boom, I just got paid back. Right?
That's an amazing
audience
compliment.
And I see them enjoying it, and boom, I got paid back.
That's awesome.
I love that, yes.
Well, what I'm curious about, though, is the process you just explained is like you write it, watch it performed, and then rewrite it. So now, during those periods where you're doing the rewriting, are you just like hiring a private performance for just you and your buddy to watch and then rewriting from that? Or are you just like throwing out a script, watching it produced, and then rewriting it then?
Yeah, no, that's what we're doing. And we have even, like I said, we're perfectionists. So that's exactly what we do. We would do a stage reading, or we'd see it perform, Fringe, and we go, that's not working, this isn't working. And really kind of pay attention to the audience's reaction to things too. What are they laughing at? What are what's really affecting them emotionally? And then we'd go back, and I'd rewrite the book, and Corey would play with the music. And although I'll be honest, he had to do a lot less rewriting than I did. He's a lot better than I am. That's what I'm saying. He's really good, and I'm winging it.
So somebody who might have saw this musical like 5 years ago, and if they sat down and saw it now, it would be a completely different thing.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we pulled main characters out completely. In fact, when I first wrote the show, there was a narrator in the show, right? It was the serial killer's dead mother, and she would decay further and further. Like every time you'd see her throughout the play, body parts would be falling off her, and it was funny, but she was my favorite character, as a matter of fact, and it was funny, but it just was taking away from the play. And so I had to do the tough thing and pull her out. Now she went from being the main catalyst of the play and really running it, and probably one of the lead parts, to she has one song at the beginning and a little thing right at the end, and that's it, right? And you got to be able to do that.
Yeah, Chris, we have to wrap this up, dude, but thank you so much for talking to us. Where can everybody find you, your book, and the musical?
Yeah, definitely. Go to Amazon.com. All my both books are there, as well as the soundtrack. If you go to minorjoystudios.com, that's my website, and I've always put up where the new shows are. You can also go to TexasChainsawMusical.com, or I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, and stroke my ego and follow me.
Awesome, brother. And I'm gonna play the Gospel According to Stephen for our break.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. All right. Thanks, guys.
No problem, dude. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks much. Cheers.
Later, dude.